Cheers, guys. Epix911, welcome to the Tuesday, May 2nd, 2017 edition of VR News. Just uploaded a Q&A video earlier today, and in that, one of the questions had to do with which HMD I prefer for racing games, racing sims. So it's funny, the first story for tonight's news, a racing game. So I'm doing my research. It's the first hit that pops up. It's for rFactor 2, which is going to support, according to the devs, virtual reality. Both Vive and Rift getting support for this, which is awesome. Now, rFactor, for me, one of my favorite racing sims, even before VR. VR is just going to take it absolutely to the next level. There is a video, I'm going to have the direct link to it, but you scroll halfway down, sim racing devotee Marcel Pfister. He does a mixed reality video. He's got his actual steering wheel and gear shifter superimposed over top of the cockpit. So you see his real hands and wheel, and it looks amazing. And according to him, absolutely intense, even though this is just an open beta that they announced today. So when it's actually going to be released, well, here's what they said about that. We know it's been an excruciating wait, even for us. We've been bursting with the type of anticipation you get when you're wanting to give someone a really cool gift. When asked specifically for the release date, they said development is ongoing and we will quickly move to a full release over the next few months. So looks like they want to do a pretty quick transition from open beta to mastering and full release. If you look at the game while Marcel's playing it, it looks pretty damn polished. Let's just say it looks pretty awesome. Can't wait to get that. Next story, the Vive Deluxe audio strap. Finally, a firm release date. We knew the release date was sometime in June. We knew May 2nd today was going to be the pre-order for non-devs was going to open today. Well, now we can say definitively June 6th is when we are going to get our deluxe audio straps. Very cool. Like I said, I'm probably going to pass on this one, at least for the interim. But anyone out there that gets one, yeah, you got to let me know. Because this thing, it does look good. It looks really good. Next news story. Epic's Tim Sweeney. He thinks that full-body VR scanners are just 3 years away. So we heard a lot about his competitor over at Unity the last couple of days. So, of course, we're going to hear from Tim Sweeney. And he's been a huge proponent of a more believable metaverse, as he puts it, for some time. And a big part of that for him is the introduction of avatars that look much more human. And I can't agree more. I can't agree enough. That was the thing to me lacking with Facebook Spaces were those horrible avatars. Not saying avatars can't be cartoony, but I didn't see the semblance at all. I want something that, while cartoony, is going to kind of approximate. And it just seems they kind of went really for that the we me, whatever the heck they're called, as opposed to trying to do something original. That's what it felt like to me. So I agree with Sweeney on that. He says, what we need are inward and outward facing cameras that scan your body. That's what's missing. The technology has been proven to work at a high-end commercial level, costing tens of thousands of dollars. It's probably as little as 3 years away. So you read that a little further. Of course, the title is going to say 3 years away, but he does state right there that that is the minimum length of time. So probably 3 to 8 would be my guess based on what his actual thought is. And these cameras would operate like enhanced versions of Microsoft's Kinect system, but able to scan a very lifelike avatar of yourself, which I think is a great idea as even a base for something more cartoony, right? Almost allow you to then apply filters and different effects to make it look more cartoony, but have your starting reference point be a lifelike avatar. I think that's a good approach. Next news story, Oculus patented new eye tracking device just days after they acquired the iTribe. So we reported this right at the end of 2016 in December. Well, according to the patent that they filed, What they're looking for is a device for eye tracking, or what they patented rather, a first depth profiler that contains display device configured to display one or more images selected based on a position of the eye. The patent itself, lots of figures describing it, so lots of illustrations. And in their notes, they say specifically that there's a need for eye tracking that is compact, light, and accurate. And they state in that their method delivers that, as well as boasting low power consumption to ensure a long battery life. So the article brings up some questions based on that. For example, does this mean that any eye tracking device Oculus designs might be separate from the VR headset itself? Why would eye tracking integrated into a wired PC headset like the Rift need a battery if it isn't? And that is a good question. Or, as Upload says, perhaps this is designed for mobile and standalone headsets like the Santa Cruz prototype. Interesting or misinterpreted. That's a possibility as well. It might be for the Rift, and that has been misinterpreted. I haven't had a chance to go to the actual patent, look at all the figures, and read all the blurbs, but I may just do that to clarify that point. I am interested to see if that is the case or not. Now, this patent was filed December 30th, and that is literally 2 days after they acquired the iTribe. So it's pretty obvious whatever intellectual property they purchased the iTribe for, and obviously expertise as well, it was important enough for them to patent it ASAP. Really interesting to what they come up with, because of course we know Vive's solution already, which is the $220 US, essentially a clip-on eye tracking kit. No idea how good it's going to be, but we do know at least that. So yeah, where's Oculus going with this, and when are we going to find out? Next news story, a report that highlights the tracking differences between Vive and Rift. And I talked about this analytical report generating program called Ghostline. Now, this is the data that Ghostline was able to track and spit out into report form. And the stats are pretty damn interesting. So listen to this. I'm going to have the picture up. I'll kind of go through these pretty quick. The average Steam play areas are about 5.7 square meters compared to 3.3 on the Oculus. The GTX 1070 is the most popular GPU on Steam, 27%, and Oculus, 19%. That makes the most sense because last summer, I remember even when I purchased the 1080 and a lot of people were asking me what the best bang for the buck is, my standard answer was definitely not the 1080 that I just bought. It would be the 1070 because the performance difference between them, not enough to justify the price difference between them. And I think a lot of people saw that and they purchased accordingly. And this is the fallout from that decision. GTX 1070, by far more popular than the 1080. I like this stat too. 36%, or rather the next one, we'll get to that. 36% of Steam players use play areas larger than 6 square meters compared to only 6% of Oculus. And that makes sense. You got to think with the, well, we don't know when the tracking of the data was, but still, not everybody bought the touch controllers, which of course provides for that third sensor to really give you the top-notch room scale that you're looking for, if that's what you want on a Rift. So yeah, the percentage makes sense from that point of view. This is the interesting one. Oculus tracking improved 2 times with 3 sensors compared to 2 sensors. So obviously they were able to capture, you know, the controllers losing tracking, and that was something that Ghostline could basically read for. This one is obvious. I'm not even sure why it's there. 10.9% of Steam players are from China compared to 0.3% of Oculus players. We know that because of the ban on Facebook and by extension, Oculus Rift, of course. The ones that are there are smuggled, black market, etc. So yeah, totally makes sense that it's only 0.3. Not alarming at all given exactly that fact. The average session length, 28 minutes. And that doesn't matter if it's Steam VR or Oculus. Both platforms, the average session length, exactly 28 minutes. One more neat one. 15.1% of Oculus players use AMD CPUs compared to 7.6% of Steam players. So almost double for Oculus users going with AMD. And I kind of fit that statistic in that the main rig has the NVIDIA, the backup has the AMD, and I have both the Rift and the Vive. So I would fall under that statistic too. But yeah, a lot of that percent is probably made up of people that just have the one solution and opted for the one CPU. Next story, Ex-Sony Cambridge developer and his thoughts and feelings about rigs, the game that, according to the developers who used to work for the company, said was never given the chance to grow. So UploadVR has an article, it has an interview with Alex Canaris and Tom Jones, not the musician, game programmer. They've started a new indie studio named Polygon Treehouse. They're working on their first game, not a VR game. It's called Roki. But when Eurogamer asked them about their time at Cambridge, they took a little bit of time to actually reflect on that before giving their answer. And the main gist of what they said is that rigs never got the chance to grow and go to where we wanted it to be. They had all kinds of DLC, according to Alex and Tom, ready. They had expansions planned, and other than the one update that came at the end of the year, none of that's ever going to be released, which is a shame because it wasn't one of my favorite games, but it was good for what it offered. And it was a launch title, so a lot of people are going to remember it for that. But with that said, they also have no ill will towards Sony. Both of them understand that it had to be done and that it was a difficult decision for Sony. Now, are they still under a non-disclosure agreement? That's a possibility. It hasn't been a year yet, but, you know, assuming we take that at face value, yeah, they're sad it never was able to live up to its potential. This one a bit of a shock, and did a little bit more digging on this. I saw this first on Twitter. Nate had this. And then, of course, Road to VR and UploadVR. Chet Faliszek departs Steam VR, or rather, Chet Faliszek, or Zek. I just call him Chet. Jeez, here we go with that last name. We'll work with that. Let's just go with Chet. So, not only did he leave Steam, and if you don't know him, he has been front and center for Valve's VR initiatives for the last 2 years, easily. Almost at every single event. In fact, he would be your expected Valve VR employee to show up, gave numerous speeches and talks about the technology. He really was an evangelist for the tech. And so interesting that he left. But what's even more interesting, if you go to VentureBeat, where, you know, one of the VR places that I check for news as well, they have some additional stuff that he talked about. So the other two articles talk about his leaving not being anything to do with drama. He says, look, nothing exciting or drama-filled, simply looking for change. That's it. And that there was no hard feelings between himself and Valve. You go to VentureBeat, there's a little bit more dialogue revealed. For example, that he worked there 12 years, shipped a bunch of great games, amazing hardware, no news on what's next. And then this piece, only on VentureBeat. Yep, I've actually been gone for almost a month, hence all the cat pictures and no travel. So it's interesting, it took a month for that to come out for such a pivotal person. I wonder what the reasons for that is. I mean, you can speculate. He doesn't seem to be hiding anything. He's pretty open about the fact that he left a month ago. I'm just wondering why it wasn't announced, why Valve said nothing about it, given that he was so important to their VR initiatives. Next up, the best gamepads for Gear VR and Google Cardboard. This is the last story. Those of you who have a Gear VR, and I do get asked this question from time to time. One of the questions I was asked was about games on that Q&A. The other that comes up from time to time is controllers. What are the controllers? Well, the one that I usually recommend is the Strata SteelSeries XL. It is super, super comfortable. It's about $33 US now on Amazon, and it's the gamepad that the majority of the devs for Gear VR use. It's this. But there's two other ones on there. There's Mad Catz Game Smart. So like the Steel Stratus, it uses AA batteries, which gives the devices both about 40 plus hours of battery life. And then the third is the Moga Hero Power, which uses a rechargeable battery, but it also has a holder for your phone. So if you're not doing VR, you can do standard Android gaming, you know, with your phone right off of your gamepad. All right, guys, that is it for the news today. Tomorrow, hump day. I really need these next few days to go quickly, guys. I'm sure you're the same at your work. As always, cheers.